So getting back with Anthony Richardson now and his tattoo and everything, Kasey, what do you make of Colts camp? What's going on there? Like, obviously, guys got tons of potential. And I think even when he was in the first couple of games, like, he showed, like, hey, this guy could be the future in the NFL. Health is a big thing, though. Like, do you think he makes those strides forward, but more importantly, do you think he can stay healthy for the entire season?
Questionable on the health. I think when he got drafted, there was a lot of talk about that he probably shouldn't play right away. And I think when he did play, he was good, not great. He needs to figure out how to not take these massive hits, right? He's got to get down. He's got to get out of bounds, which he's either going to figure it out or he's not. Like, there's no real way around that. But although you don't want to see a guy injured, I think the fact that he got to watch a lot with the injury, I think it will help him because it's almost like he sat. I get it. He got hurt. It's not the same. But I think seeing what the Colts did, the run they went on, you learn a lot from that. I think he's talented. He was talented on the Gators. The Gators just weren't good, right? But he's definitely an extremely talented player. So I believe that he will be a good quarterback in the NFL. But if he does not get out of bounds and get down, he's got no shot because he'll get hurt again this year.
Yeah. I mean, to me, he has all the makings to be really a dynamic, I think, fantasy darling. Like, I'm not ready to call him, because, I always do this every single year. I give you my fantasy darling. Yeah. I mean, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts. I've done pretty well for myself.
2 for 2.
2 for 2. Okay, let me ask you this. If he can stay healthy for the whole season, assume he plays all, 17 games, where do you think he's going to rank then in terms of the AFC South quarterbacks for the season? Like, I think we both have Deshaun number 1, right? Or do you think, like, Trevor can make an argument and be the top quarterback in the AFC South?
You're talking about Stroud?
Yeah.
You said Deshaun.
Oh, I'm sorry, Deshaun. No. Sorry, Stroud.
Yeah,
Stroud.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So Stroud number 1 overall, Trevor number 2?
Yes.
And then do you have AR at number 3, or do you have...
I think because of the mobility, yes. But I like Will Levis. Will Levis is a good 4 for me at this point.
Yeah, he's a good 4.
I like Will Levis. But, I think if Richardson stays healthy and the mobility, if he continues to run the football but gets down, doesn't get hit, then, I think there's a lot more potential there because Trevor is mobile and he has used his legs. C.J. Stroud, I guess, can. Will Levis can. Anthony Richardson is a weapon running the football. So if he's anywhere close to throwing the football the way that, and I'm not saying he is, I'm saying if he's anywhere close to how Trevor throws the football or C.J. Stroud throws the football, his ability to move and run and make plays with his legs, I think, could put him over, but he's not there yet.
Yeah, without a doubt. But also I think he has the team around him to be successful.
Yeah.
I think with Jalen Hurts, they were kind of tearing it down a little bit. You had the whole Nate Sudfeld situation. Doug Peterson ended up getting let go. Like, with Jalen Hurts, they kind of had to retool everything and reload everything, and they did it at a pretty quick pace, right? They got Devontae Smith, traded for A.J. Brown, and now Jalen Hurts is considered one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, I would say.
Yeah, paid like it.
And paid like it as well. I think if you look at the Colts right now, you have Michael Pittman Jr., you have A.D. Mitchell, you have Josh Downs. Like, those are some pretty decent weapons to have for a young quarterback. And then at tight end, they got Jelani Woods. I'm not really sure a lot about him.
He's there. He's big.
He's big. He's there. What happened to Moyle Cox? Is still? Yeah.
He's still there.
I guess they have him down on the depth chart a little bit.
Big.
Also big.
They got basketball players.
Basketball players playing
That's
tight
what they
end.
do. Their wide receivers are interesting because I've said this before, and I don't know if you know this. Brent hates Michael Pittman Jr. Thinks he's no good.
Really?
Oh yeah, doesn't like him.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it all comes down to the Colts. How do you feel about Michael Pittman Jr.? I think he's very good. I think he's a number 1 receiver.
I think last year he showed that he's pretty legit.
Yeah.
Yes. So
if you feel good about that guy, then everything else is better. Because you could make Brent would make the argument that if you're not in love with Michael Pittman Jr. as your 1, then you're not possibly in love with these other young guys because you haven't seen enough. You've definitely seen nothing from the rookie. Josh Downs has been good, but you can make. On the other hand, I think Michael Pittman Jr. is a 1. I think Josh Downs is electric in the slot. I thought he was very good at North Carolina. I think he's good now. And then did you just bring in a guy who's super fast and can stretch the field? Well, then you might have something there if you're the Colts.
I mean, I think if you're talking about Calvin Ridley trying to be the 1 last year for the Jaguars, I think that was the vision.
Yeah.
I mean, you see what Michael Pittman's done. Like, he's unequivocally a 1. And unequivocally, I think one of the best wide receivers in the division, hands down. Like, okay, here's an interesting exercise then. Wide receiving cores. Give me your rankings for all 4 teams then. You're talking about the Tennessee Titans. You got Hopkins, Ridley, Boyd, who on paper 5 years ago, that could be a top 5 in the NFL. Now kind of on the back nine of their career a little bit, but I think they can still offer something. And obviously with a young quarterback like Will Levis, you have to help elevate him a little bit. In Houston right now, and you can go a couple different ways because I think you have Mechie too who could get some playing time, but I feel like the starter is going to be Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell. Would you disagree with that?
I would agree.
Like Noah Brown is decent, but
he's a good 4.
He's a good 4, and then once again Mechie.
They're deep. I like Mechie.
But I think they got Robert Woods too still. I think, right?
Do they?
I think they have Robert Woods as well.
I mean,
so they're super deep. But you got Diggs, Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, and then Tank Dell. We just said what the Colts were, and then obviously with Jacksonville, you got Brian Thomas Jr., you got Christian Kirk, and then you got Gabe Davis. Unequivocally, number 1's going to be the Houston Texans. Then who's 2?
I think you go the Jags.
Yeah,
because I think it's between them and Indianapolis. Again, sorry Titans, but I'm not sorry. Mm-hmm. If you look at what the Jags have, you go. Again, I think it depends on how you feel about Christian Kirk. Because I think Christian Kirk's very good. But again, you can make the argument he's not a 1, whatever. I think he is a number 1 for them. I think he plays a completely different game than Michael Pittman plays, but I still think they're number 1 receivers. So then when you go down the depth, you look at the Colts, they have 2 young guys that you might need to see more from. Again, I like Downs. But you look at what the Jags have, you've seen Gabe Davis play in the NFL. So you pretty much know what you're getting there. You have a first-round guy that you think you know what you're getting there. So I think the Jags are a little bit more established and you feel pretty good about what you're going to get. There's only one question where in Indianapolis you probably have 2.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. But also I think like with Gabe Davis, you know what you're going to get, but how is he going to fit into this offense though as well?
That's fair.
Because, and I said this yesterday a little bit, this wasn't one of my quote-unquote bold predictions, but I was thinking about it, where will Gabe Davis lead this team in touchdowns? Like, will they implement him more than just that big play guy like a Marvin Jones was a couple years ago, where it's like, all right, he'll have his 3-touchdown game and then go silent for the next 4 weeks. Like, I don't see that happening in this offense. I think you make a like the Titans, for whatever reason, and the age obviously doesn't scare me, but if they can somehow find like the fountain of youth a little bit, like top to bottom, like Tyler Boyd is super slept on in terms of the slot receiver.
He always has been.
And he always has been because he's played with guys like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. But like super dependable. And you got a guy in DeAndre Hopkins who, over 1,000 yards last year. I think he had 8 or 9 touchdowns. Like, a quietly pretty decent year. Then you had Calvin Ridley, who, at least I think, like, was he worth the money? No, he wasn't. But do I expect him to do better than last year now, maybe knock some rust off? Absolutely. Now, it's going to be a new offense, a new quarterback. That could take some time. But, like, I think the best Calvin Ridley, at least from this era of Calvin Ridley, is yet to be seen yet. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think when I think about like how I guess rank the wide receivers in the division, I go, okay, what happens if the top guy gets hurt? So if you go to Houston, what happens if Diggs gets hurt?
Yeah.
Well, they're pretty deep. What happens, and this is where I go to the Jags. Okay, so what happens if Christian Kirk gets hurt again? Well, one, you saw what happened last year. Not good. So you got to keep that guy healthy. But you've got Brian Thomas Jr., you've got Gabe Davis. They can hold it down. Let's say Michael Pittman Jr. gets hurt. Then you're relying on 2 really young players. How do you feel about that? I don't know. And then when you talk about Tennessee, if Calvin Ridley were to get hurt, I mean, I just think the Jags are, outside of Houston, are built better to kind of have that depth now. I think they addressed that. But again, you saw what happened when Christian Kirk got hurt last year, so you don't want that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Let's keep this exercise going. I like this exercise here. Let's go with the running back position then. Obviously, in the Colts right now, you got Jonathan Taylor, who has shown glimpses of being of top 5, and injuries sometimes have kind of, brought him down that list a little bit. Tennessee's rocking with Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears. It'll be some combination of those guys. Houston, they just bring in Joe Mixon, Damian Pierce, who I thought was going to be an absolute stud last year for the Texans, and hasn't really, I feel like, reached expectations of what he showed in college.
Yep.
And then Jacksonville, obviously, Tank Bigsby, who I think is going to have a lot of touchdowns this up and coming season with Travis Etienne. Go and give me that ranking, Kasey.
I mean, I think Travis Etienne's the best player on the Jags.
Sure.
I think he's the best running back in the division.
I'm going to come with you as well. Like, Jonathan Taylor, when fully healthy,
is a menace.
Is an absolute menace. But I can't go there after last season. So, like, based off what we've seen, based off of injuries, and I get Etienne was hurt to start off his career, but hasn't shown any signs of slowing down anytime soon. Yeah, I think Etienne's the best running back in this entire league, or in the entire division.
I do too. And I think, like, with Jonathan Taylor, you can say if the injury stuff, and if he comes back 100% committed to being in Indianapolis, which he is now, I think he will have better numbers this year. Mm-hmm. But, again, it goes back to something you guys talked about a lot. Travis Etienne was still a 1,000-yard runner, double-digit touchdowns, and they could not get a yard. Mm-hmm. Like, you're getting so much better in your run blocking game now, just from the center position. What does that do to Travis Etienne's numbers? We disagree a little bit. I think Travis Etienne's numbers goes up. You think Tank Bigsby numbers go up, whatever.
Yeah.
But I still think Travis Etienne is going to have a massive year. I think everything they've done this offseason offensively, although it helps Trevor, it also helps Travis Etienne, and I think he's going to shine.
And you know how I feel about it as well? I think Tank Bigsby makes a giant step forward. I think they use him in inside the 10-yard line, a lot of goal line packages, a lot of power packages, and I think that's only going to help the run game as well. So I agree with you here, where I think the Jaguars have the best running back room in the AFC South. Who you go number 2 then?
Jonathan Taylor, Indy.
Going Indy, okay. Over Mixon?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Mixon, the question will be is how much does Mixon have left? It feels weird to say, but Cincinnati, I mean, I understand they pay a lot of people, but like they gave up on him for a reason. You know what I mean? So what does that look like? What does the offense dictate for Mixon? I think he's still got something left. Who knows what Cincinnati feels like, but I'll give it to Jonathan Taylor right now. Because I think Jonathan Taylor's back to healthy, back to bought in.
Yeah.
I think he'll be a menace, but...
Well, and you would think I think this season you think they're going to use Taylor a lot more than Mixon, like in terms of having to depend on him.
Yeah.
Because Houston's so stacked at the wide receiver position and pretty good solid tight end as well, where theoretically how many times would even Mixon get the ball?
Not,
and
14, roughly.
And the Colts have added too. They've added to the receiving core. They got A.D. Mitchell, but
they want.
You're still going to have a heavy dose of Jonathan Taylor.
They need to run the ball for AR.
Exactly.
In my opinion.
Exactly. Yeah.
And C.J. Stroud, they're comfortable with having him throw it 50 times a game.
I mean, I think ideally, if you're the Colts, you want to go with the Ravens' philosophy of what they do. Mm-hmm. You have Mark Andrews, you have Zay Flowers now, you have some capable wide receivers. But you're always going to run the ball first, then set up the run. And obviously having Lamar Jackson too, that's always a threat to take it to the end zone as well. So then you're going to go Colts number 2. Mm-hmm. Number 3 then, are you giving Mixon, and then number 4 is going to be
Tennessee?
Which I think, once again, I've said this a couple of times, I don't get the Tony Pollard hype. Now, maybe I say this and he rushes for 2,000 yards this up and coming year, but I just think I don't envision Tony Pollard as more... He's kind of like a third down back. Like I see right now in Tennessee, you have Spears and you have Pollard, and I see 2 of the same type of back.
That's why I thought it was weird that they go for Pollard, because I thought Spears had shown you a little bit, like complimenting Derrick Henry, not a ton, but enough to sink.
Tore the Jaguars apart. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So I thought that there was some reason that they could consider making him like their lead guy, bring in like a Tank Bigsby, if you will, just to complement what you don't have there, and then they go get the exact same dude. So that was confusing to me.
All right, so we all I think we're kind of on the same page here. Then last but not least, since we're doing this exercise just spontaneously, organically, which I'm always a big fan of on this show, go and give me your tight end rankings then for this AFC South division. I mean, to me, it's Evan Ingram hands down number 1.
Yep.
Okay. And then if you want me to, so you got Dalton Schultz in Houston,
right?
You have in Tennessee, you're rocking with the Aquanico or whatever from Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yep,
Okonkwo.
And then in Indianapolis, we just mentioned him, but according to this depth chart, and it could always change, Jelani Woods and Mo Alley Cox.
Yeah, you can give me Schultz in the 2.
Schultz at 2. and then whatever. I mean, it's like, similar.
Yeah.
So we're having this conversation on Kasey, and we're talking like, all right, Jaguars, second best wide receiving core, best running game, best tight end. Trevor Lawrence then, right? Like, this is going to have to be, once again, injuries are a thing, and knock on wood, they don't happen. But at least from the excuses of, well, who's he going to throw to? Does he have a running game that's going to have his back? Like, the offensive line blocking will be big, and we'll keep tracks on that as well. Because, I mean, if you want to rank the offensive lines right now, I mean, you go Houston number one. Colts, I think, are up there too as well.
They get paid a lot.
They get paid a lot.
Underperformed at times. But, I mean, yeah, probably because coming off what the Jags did, they made changes at center, but you haven't seen it yet. So coming off the last Jags offensive line you saw, I mean, not good.
Yeah. So then, I mean, and it kind of ushers the point a little bit too, where we always talk about, is Trevor getting paid this offseason? Or should they wait? I mean, I think if they can all stay healthy, and health is a big thing in this league, and I get you have to deal with injuries, but if they can stay healthy, Kasey, like, I think we know what this is going to look like for Trevor Lawrence. And it's going to be good, right? Like, or are you kind of not?
No, I think that's the
plan that's been put into place.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hope. Yeah. I don't think there's any reason to believe it's going to be bad. I do think there are concerns in his game. Like, turns it over a lot.
That's the biggest one.
A lot of that, I don't know if I should say a lot of that, but a good amount of that is not the fault of anybody but Trevor Lawrence. Some of them had some wrong routes. It looked like, whatever that was.
Of course, yeah.
But there's
like a game like the I think it was Baltimore, where he kind of went off for a first down and the ball just came out. Like, nobody hit it. Like, he just fumbled it.
There's stuff like that it's like, okay, they can add everybody. They can add every good player in the sport, but there's some things that he just has to be better at, and that's obviously the main one.
No, that's fair. You can't turn the ball over. Right. Doesn't matter if you're Patrick Mahomes. Doesn't matter if you're Daniel. Like, you just can't. You can't turn the ball over. That's priority number one. And I get a lot of the issues I think that have stemmed from the turnovers is Trevor Lawrence just playing outside himself. Where whether you're coming off of a drop ball from a receiver that was right in his hands, you're coming off of a tipped interception that the receiver should have caught, you're coming off of 2 false starts, back-to-back drives, you're coming off of a holding penalty. It always seemed like the MO of the Jaguars the past couple of seasons has been shooting themselves in the foot and then trying to dig themselves out. And I think when you do that, when you're not a disciplined team, when you're not on the same page, when you keep having these dropped tip deflections, as a quarterback, it's frustrating, number one, but number two, it almost gives you like that more motivation to play outside yourself. Like, okay, well, you can't catch the ball, you can't, block properly, you can't line up on the run. Like, as a quarterback, then it's like, fine, I'm doing it myself. And when you have that mentality, fine, I'll do it myself. And like, being mobile is one thing, but obviously you're still a passer first. When you have the final do it myself mentality, then that internal clock goes a little longer. Then all of a sudden you play outside yourself, you're fumbling the ball a little more. Like, I think now we can comfortably say, and we'll see with Brian Thomas Jr. how he fits in here, but all we hear, Kasey, is how smart this dude is. The football IQ.
Right.
Which you didn't read anything about that in draft reports. It was always the speed, the size, the explosivity, the route tree. Never heard of anything about his IQ. And now we're hearing all this from Doug Peterson, from Trevor Lawrence. He's a very intelligent guy. Great, because that's what you need, because you can't have guys running the wrong routes. You need dependable guys that will be at the right spot at the right time to give your quarterback confidence. And I think if this wide receiving core, and Evan Ingram included, and obviously Travis Etienne, if they can all stay healthy, then Trevor does not have to play outside himself anymore. Like, there's no excuse for it. Like, if we're sitting here in a year talking about how, man, those fumbles from Trevor, man, those, then you know what? Then, he's got some issues.
33 of them.
33 of them. I get it. And sometimes the stats, I feel like, can tell a story, but what you see on the field tells a different story. And I'm not making excuses up for Trevor Lawrence here. Not at all, because it falls on him. Your internal clock has to be better. You can't turn the ball over. Like, let's be honest, Kasey, 33 turnovers is what it was, you said?
33 fumbles.
Yeah. If he was taken in the 4th, 5th round, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what we're talking about right now. But he was drafted where he was drafted for a reason. We have seen some great things, But now it's just him being more confident in this offense and him trusting the players around him. I think Calvin Ridley showed a lot in training camp. I was super excited for him. We were all saying, man, we haven't seen this type of guy before in Jacksonville in a long time. This route runner, this speedster. This could be a crazy year for Calvin Ridley. It was kind of whatever. Mm-hmm. Okay, it was at the end of the day. A couple games really just went unnoticed, if you will. But you got the sense that there wasn't the dependability on him from Trevor Lawrence. Like I don't think Calvin Ridley had Trevor Lawrence's full trust. Now I understand that sometimes it takes longer than a season to build trust, and you may not see that right away with Brian Thomas Jr. But he has the tools to be successful. Now the giant question is, well, there's really two giant questions. Can he play within himself, number one, and can Doug Peterson cultivate what we all think is going to be greatness from him, what we're expecting greatness from him this up and coming year?